Who do you think Arnold is?
Well, I've got a theory. Could be Bernard, a robot Bernard. No, something isn't right there. I've got a theory. Could be Dolores. He hid himself inside a massive robot mind. Yes, I've got a theory. We should podcast fast. Every week, a new hot take. We cannot take them back. Welcome to Westworld Theories, where we discuss the latest and greatest in the world of Westworld. This week we're talking about the last two episodes of Season 3, and isn't it an exciting time to be a Westworld fan? My name is Jacob Burrows.
And my... yikes. My name
Westworld
is
got you down? Is that the system keeping you down, Jim?
Oh my goodness. My name is Jim Scampoli, and I was just caught reminiscing. I was almost like a host when someone presses the button and they can't move and they're frozen. I'm just reminiscing about the days of like, who's Arnold? The days.
Yeah, honestly, that intro also made me like, we used to have fun on this podcast. Sorry, everybody who wants a fun discussion about Westworld. I think it would still be a fun discussion, but I didn't enjoy how this season ended. Did you, Jim?
No, not really. And I feel like it's like the stages of Westworld. It happens every time. Mm-hmm. Season 1, 2, and season 3. Again, you always go through these stages of Westworld where you're like, this is interesting. Huh. Yeah, I wonder where they're going with this. Oh, that's where they're going with this? And then by the finale, it's like, was this show ever good? And now I'm really thinking like, because even Westworld, I've dug a little bit into articles and stuff, and even like Westworld fans, there's articles that are like the disappointment of Westworld, or where did it all go wrong. And I believe it was not on Vanity Fair, maybe it was on Vulture. It was all about reminiscing about the good old days of season 1 and picking up all the Easter eggs and going on Reddit and arguing and breaking down all the scenes and how great it was and how now it's like still okay but not as good. But my argument is almost like, I don't know if it was that great. Sorry to go there already, but I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Well, we were there from the get-go. You can't say we're not day one fans of Westworld. True. And so we have a whole podcast chronicling this as we go through season 1. And I believe my position, like, because we were on the Reddits and we were like in tune with everything being discussed outside of the show. And you floated these theories past me, like, what if William's the Man in Black? And I was like, that would be bullshit. And it felt like it would be bullshit because it would be like it would mean that the season was built just to have this reveal rather than just to have a satisfying story. And I don't know, it definitely worked the way they finished it better than it's done in later seasons. But I was pretty down on a lot of stuff in season 1 as well. But I did feel by the end like, yeah, they got it together sort of thing. But it's just more of the same, and it's not as it just the flaws that were already there in season 1 are grossly apparent to anyone watching the show, even the super fans, I think now.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting trajectory of this show in general, and I guess it ties into the novelty or the shine of Game of Thrones in a lot of ways, because Westworld was like teased during some of the height of Game of Thrones, and then it was premiered like post one of the seasons where Game of Thrones was still thought of as this great thing, and then it was also kind of pitched as this like, this is the next Game of Thrones. And then the mass opinion, I mean, you, the listener, you have whatever you took away from it. But the mass opinion of Game of Thrones was highly negative by the end, at least online. And then Westworld with their long breaks, and then just kind of the frustration of, I guess, the average viewer. It doesn't have that event viewing, especially when everyone's right now locked down in quarantine. There's a lot of shows that are like getting that quarantine bump in a way. Like, I mean, obviously like Tiger King or some other stuff, but for a show that like it's felt like everyone was talking about at the beginning, at least in my personal circle, like by the time Westworld 3 was rolling around, everyone's like, oh, LOL, what? Westworld? Yeah, right. Most people had already given up in season 2, like even before the ending. We were still hangers on. We were still there. And I don't know. Again, bring up Game of Thrones. I can't fully blame Game of Thrones, but people did turn against that, and I guess they'd already turned against Westworld. Plus, remember in this season when they had Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah, that was definitely like a before we turned kind of thing. Like you know how South Park, they make every episode in like a week, so they're able to stay on the pulse and current. I feel like the 2-year gap really made them like, we'll put dragons in it and everyone will love it. No,
No,
didn't happen.
Oh,
by the way, before
in it as well, everyone loves them.
who's in it? Sorry.
Oh,
the
yeah,
they are in it. Again, definitely before all of the last season there went down. It feels like. Before I forget, if you want to hear us discuss Tiger King, a show we really enjoyed, just go to showswhatyouknow.com. You'll find our coverage there. We've split up the feeds a little bit differently, so you'll find that one on the feed that's just Shows What You Know. So that has the general shows, and then this obviously is on the Westworld feed. Don't worry, you can still find everything at showswhatyouknow.com.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if I can go through some of the things I came to realize towards the end of this season, it just feels like I made a note at first that was like, Caleb has no personality throughout. But then I was like, actually, no one has any personality, maybe except Maeve. But I'm not sure if she has a personality or just has an accent. And she does call everyone, sweetheart, peaches. And I'm pretty sure that's the extent of her personality. And none of the other characters have any personality at all. Am I wrong, Jim?
Well, it could be argued that Dolores has multiple personalities.
I feel like she doesn't have any, but they have like things they do, which I suppose is like you're supposed to reveal a character through action, so it's not bad per se. But like everyone just gives these long speeches to each other. The dialogue isn't believable. Bernard is literally like he is a robot. He's not even like any different from. He may as well be one of those construction robots as far as personality. He doesn't say or do anything. Like I used to be cheering for Bernard, but like there's nothing going on. He looks at us with dead robot eyes, and I'm like, I know you're a robot, but isn't the whole point of this that robots are like people? Why aren't these people more like people? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. And like going back to Maeve, like I was rolling my eyes and annoyed in the last scene when she's like, well, darling, it's a new world or whatever the fuck. And I was even having the thought of like, when did they decide that's her thing that she always does? Like it's not that interesting. And it's just grating to me at this point, especially because I liked Maeve as a character, but this season it was more about like they were just like sidelining everyone to put them to like position them in these positions, but the journey to get to these positions wasn't great. Like especially, I mean, Bernard. I mean, I guess there's so many, but Bernard. Like, what was Bernard doing this whole time? And he was just kind of showing up, I guess, when he's supposed to show up, except that one time when they're like, "Oh, he's here early."
Well, he had the key in his brain all along, but like. I said from the start, I don't give a shit about this key. I know Maeve does, and that makes sense. But then, like, why? Who? I did. The problem is not that I didn't understand it. For anyone who listens to this, like, no, you didn't get it. Like, because I think the key was Sirach wanted the key, right? And he wanted it because he would be able to recondition his outliers more effectively with the information from the park. I think that was the thing. Because he had all these people frozen on ice, and including his brother. And it was like, if he had the extra data from the park that was in Bernard's head, along with the key to the Sublime, which they started calling it, this other digital world where all the hosts' consciousnesses are.
Robot
heaven. Yeah. Robot heaven. It was in Bernard's brain. So like they wanted that, but like, yeah, what did Bernard do? He went to the island. I don't know. What did any of the characters do? I'm sorry.
Well, because like the only problem with it is that they didn't make it interesting, at least in the realm of like Bernard could have maybe just figured out that like, wait a minute, like, although I guess we've already been down this path as well, because Bernard's whole thing was that he was doing what he's supposed to do, at least according to Dolores's plan. And there's nothing that's going to turn me off more in a story than when everything is always going to plan. Even when it's like seemingly like random shit happens, but they're like, nope, that was also part of the plan all along. We knew
Did
it was
you
all
like?
part
Did you like when Dolores died and then Caleb went and revived another Dolores?
Yes, yeah.
Because
Well,
we haven't seen that before.
exactly. Like even just where to start, but because yeah, all Bernard did is he kept just bumbling around with Stubbs the whole season, and then they try to pretend that it's an endearing like buddy cop at the end when it's like, Stubbs, they're gonna put you in the bath here. You're bleeding out, and it's like you're a robot. You're not bleeding out. There's nothing wrong with you at all. And then it's like, fuck you, Bernard. No, fuck you, bro. This is what we got. Stubbs didn't need to exist.
Well, if we could talk, since we're on Bernard, like let's talk about this. He saves William, right? That was at the end of the episode 6, right? So see episode 7, and 8, like end of episode 7. William says like, "I'm gonna shoot you guys," and Bernard's like, "We might need him." And now, if he says that at the start of a season, and then there's some episodes between where they grow closer, and then at the end, William's like, I had to turn on you. No, I warned you. Like, and they're like, but I thought we'd grown closer. Oh, well, nah, it's literally the next scene. He's like, I found a gun. So now I'm going to shoot you. Like I literally just told you. And Bernard's like, oh no. Initiate Dolores murder sequence or whatever.
Yeah. It really, it was comical how quickly it got to the point where he had to go up to them and say, I'm going to kill you. So you better he's like, look, you just kill me because I'm going to fucking kill you the second I get a chance. And Bernard's like, we might need him. And I'm thinking, for what?
Yeah.
Who do you need him for?
What is your goal? So, like, what do you need him for? I don't even know. Stop Dolores, I guess, from destroying the world. I think you already failed, probably.
And you're totally right, because it's not like, you could almost buy it if there's some more time where they've bonded a little bit, because they're not even keeping an eye on him. He's wandering around like away, and they're just having their own private conversation. And then the camera pans to like a guy laid out with a gun. And then of course, William's got the gun, and he's like, just like I said, haha, surprise, bitches. I told you I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. And like, speaking more generally about what did Bernard do this season, I feel like he did exposition, and that's pretty much it, right? Like, I mean, that can be said for a lot of characters. It's like they have expositions, and then they have fights without stakes, and then they have more exposition, and then they have fights without stakes. So they're just talking about things that will happen or has happened, explaining, and then they have twists where they've already like telegraphed everything so much that like all the reveals are as expected. Like, granted, you're not gonna like have every detail in your brain beforehand, but you're like, I just assumed that was the case already, and now it's a reveal, I suppose. I just felt like there were countless of those moments.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that since Bernard was like kind of fulfilling his own programming, that maybe they would explore that, but I was like, oh no, that's all they've ever explored with Bernard, is him being like, am I me? What am I? What am I doing? So I guess I'm kind of glad he wasn't being like, oh, am I just fulfilling Dolores's plan?
Well, we were doing that with William instead, where he was like, am I me? And so on and so on.
And then, I mean, because the thing they have though with like, I guess like just focusing on Bernard, when he meets Arnold's wife, and it's supposed to mean something, but that doesn't mean anything, right? I mean, I guess it means something to her, but we've never been with her. Like, what is Bernard getting from that moment that he's been missing?
Well, I suppose I didn't mind that scene, but it was like, why did he go to that house? I guess because it was Arnold's house and he was looking for Dolores, and he found her instead. So that kind of makes sense. But yeah, I guess he had an emotional moment there, but he doesn't have any personality for the rest of the seasons, or he doesn't talk about or think about his son. So, whatever.
I mean, I guess Arnold can have more than one houses, but didn't we already go to Arnold's house? And that was
maybe. I don't know. I thought that's why he showed up there. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. It is true. I mean, he just showed up there because they told him that he should go there. and gave
Who,
him
the showrunners?
Yes, yeah. I mean, not to bring up a show that probably no one remembers, but I was getting Dirk Gently vibes because that show was all about how like Dirk Gently is like existential and understands chance and the way things work, and everything goes to the plan. And that's this. Everything goes to the plan. I mean, at least they have this thing with the Rehoboam. But the thing I was also wondering is like, Rehoboam is this super AI, and Dolores is easily hacking it all the time, no matter what. And I guess it's because she's got the blood, or she's got the Delos, or she's got the money, and she's Dolores, but she's constantly hacking it.
Wait, what do you mean that she's constantly hacking it? When is she hacking it?
Because it's like, I understand that Dolores is supposed to be this like an outlier or whatever, but like they still know, like the AI still knows what she is and knows she's a host. But like how are there not moments where the AI is like ahead of her and kind of cutting off her plan? Like everything goes exactly to what her plan is. Why is she smarter than the AI that controls everything?
Yeah, well, I see what you mean now. I thought you meant like actually hacking it for information or whatever, but you mean like beating it,
kind of hacking it in terms of like showing up at places undetected, or doing things where like it was never like a cat and mouse game. It never felt like a cat and mouse game of like, shit, Dolores is like was going to do this, but then Rehoboam stepped in.
No, you're right, because there's so many scenes of Dolores like killing a guy on the street, and Caleb's there like, what, should we be doing this out in the open? It's like, it's fine, I've hacked all the security cameras or whatever. And like, but it feels like all the things that pop up on the circle where it's like, oh, we found something happening that's not supposed to happen here, feels like the system never takes any action based on that. But I suppose the system is acting through Sirach. That was, I suppose, the only semi-reveal that I didn't mind, that like he's literally everything he's saying is what Sirach is Rehoboam is putting in his brain. That was good, I thought. But yeah, no,
it's a super AI. It could like act through Sirach, but also it's doing all kinds of other shit, accessing bank schematics.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah.
And also that's just another like this is like more of a nitpick, but like throughout the show they're trying to. Well, actually, before I get to that nitpick, back to Dolores and her plan. Even meeting Caleb was all part of the plan, which annoyed me so much. So that seemingly thing in the beginning of the season when it felt like maybe someone got the one up on her, it was like part of the plan. Like, I guess, she sent the mission to Caleb, and then Caleb was in the spot where he's supposed to be, and then she let those guys shoot her so that he could find her in that state where he could be Captain Save-A-Ho and save the day. But then even again, like the crime app, am I wrong? And the explanation was the crime app was being used by the AI so they could like capture up the outliers.
You're correct. That is the case.
But then Dolores is also using the crime app, I would have to assume, unless she just knew that Rehoboam was going to send Caleb with the crime app to the location that she needed to be.
Well, yeah, it's either that, in which case you think like, she got shot on purpose, or massive coincidence, given that she'd already picked him to be the guy who's going to lead the revolution, which is another thing with Caleb, the fact that he has no personality, that's like he's going to be a figurehead of the movement. But I guess that's better because Dolores is looking to like kill off humanity. So I guess that makes it okay. But yeah, no, he really has no personality throughout. I love Aaron Paul, and I think he, does fine acting, except it's just like his role is just to follow along. And even at the end, when it's like everyone's calling him sir, and she's like, every revolution needs a leader, but it's so clear that he's a puppet throughout, and he like takes orders from the Solomon Code, and then at the end he's like, I decide we all have free will and erase the system, like Dolores wanted you to.
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't really feel like free will.
And it's very much between the end shot and the sir, I was getting Fight Club vibes, and like Dolores is like Caleb's Tyler Durden, because basically it was all just set up for him to be the figurehead. But oh yeah, my other nitpick was that they're pitching this idea of civil unrest and like the world's going to shit because the way they've used the system to give information back to the people, and the people are like, fuck this. Except it comes off as like a low budget, I don't want to say student film, but like super low budget film, because every other scene, the streets are fucking empty. There's no one there. Like even going back to earlier episodes when it's always like conveniently empty all the time when shit's going down. And then it was just way more apparent and like annoying to me that they'd have these confrontations at the bridge and there's no one around. And then they'd go like 2 blocks down. Then there's like a riot going on, and like kind of in my opinion, shitty looking riot. Like I never got the feeling that like the world was uprising. It was always these pockets. And I know they pay some lip service to that of like, move the riots around, blah, blah, blah. Like, and that part of it is like people are really pissed off. And part of it is like these hired, fake protesters, which, who, I guess, hitting on that real world stuff, like people arguing about fake news and if civil unrest is real or manufactured. It just never felt like big to me.
I think the problem is that the chaos that erupts, it doesn't actually impact anyone who's inside the actual story. It's pitched as like, it's just the plebs who are not characters. So we're seeing William drink a $20,000 bottle of scotch while we have like some shadow play on the glass walls and some low like and people going like, oh, it's chaos out there. It doesn't feel like the end of the world. And then you have like a deserted gas station, the one where William grabs like the shotgun and turns on them. Except, like you said, all the streets are fucking empty already. So it doesn't feel like like right now the world we're living in feels like more like the end of the world than this does, if I may say so.
So yeah, it felt that made it feel off. It made it feel like, because this is a show that's very meticulous with its like design and world, and it was almost too meticulous because everything was so clean when we were dealing with our main characters, except a couple times when they'd easily walk through the chaos and nothing would affect them. So yeah, I mean, except for Marshawn Lynch got that shot that time, because when they're like, we need to get in that helicopter, the futuristic one, and Caleb just starts walking towards it like it's fine. And then a cop for a second's like, hey, you, and then tries to shoot him. And then he shoots another guy and then just decides not to shoot again. Like I would assume their guns, like he could shoot a few times. And I guess like eventually they have a thing where it's like, well, no, he's dealing with more unrest. But it's done so weird that it feels like there's plenty of time for other cops to be like, hey, don't take our helicopter. And that leads into my other thing, is that the action on this show is so sus. It's so amateur and not exciting or well done, which is bizarre because I do think a lot of like the look and feel of the show is well done. Like it feels like a not too distant sci-fi, and they got like nice visual cues and stuff like that. But the action, I mean, it's been this whole season, not just this, in my opinion, is not well choreographed and not exciting, or there's no tension. I guess part of that is because it's always robots fighting, so nothing's going to happen or matter. But either way, like, it's not thrilling.
Yeah, I think I picked up more on that. Maybe you just influenced me, and now I want to think like you, Jim, my hero. But you mentioned this in another episode about the action, and I definitely thought more about that in the later half of the season, like looking at some of these scenes going, all right, because I definitely think more about what you said about, the robots. Like I said, there's fights without stakes over and over again. But the fights in themselves aren't exciting either. Like the way it's put together. Usually, there were some that I didn't mind when, the second time that Maeve and Dolores fought, when Maeve had a sword and she had a gun. That there was some slightly cool moments there, I thought. But it's just like, how am I going to be that engaged with this fight when I saw you have like a super badass fight last episode where one of you died, and now you're back literally the next episode you're having another big fight. And at the end as well, it's also the motivation behind it is so sus. Like we said, it's just placing characters in these different situations and talking about why that's justified until the end, where Maeve's like, oh, darling, I was, yeah, blah, 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 and then starts being on Dolores' side, like, which is what would have made sense from the start, except she was threatened. Like, it just feels a little convoluted. And then, like we said, like, I don't believe for a second that Dolores is dead. So, like, there's definitely like 18 Doloreses out there still. So, whatever.
Well, there was like kind of a telling moment in the post episode. I think it was episode 7 when they had their first fight. And I don't know if it was Evan Rachel Wood or Tandy Newton. Tandy Newton plays Maeve. Evan Rachel Wood plays Dolores. But one of them in their like talking head actor interview portions was like, here we are. Like, we finally have this like meeting of these characters. And, we thought they were going to team up, but we're fighting. And it's almost like, yeah, kind of everyone almost thought that in a weird way. It definitely felt like a showdown in other times, like whether it be previous seasons or something. It did feel like maybe it was going to build to a showdown, but it also, like, to this point, it felt way more convoluted. That, like, I guess it's just more that Maeve's motivations didn't feel as true to be this minion of Serac. I get that he's like dangling this idea of her daughter and robot heaven in front of her, but going back to our criticisms we brought up a few times, if Serac wasn't such villainy guy, it would have made more sense that Maeve is like fighting for him. But then they were also like pitching this idea of like, she has no side, darling. She's all about her, which I guess, but it just didn't. I don't know. It didn't feel like it should have been, I guess.
I guess she wanted to see her daughter in robot heaven, but I also feel like, and they thought it was in Dolores, and she did until the end when she found out it was in Bernard. But also, like, if she found that, couldn't she just have said to Dolores, like, give me the key to robot heaven? And she'd be like, oh, okay. And then, like, she wouldn't fight her, and she'd go and upload herself. Or wasn't that what she wanted? I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
But what you said about Serac, it's like, that's one of the big problems with this, because I feel like they're, like I said, no one feels like they have personalities, and when it's personal drama, it doesn't feel great either. Like when Halores is upset about her family, there's some interesting stuff there, like that. Honestly, at the end of the season, I can look at that and go, her starting to care about the family that she sort of adopted and tried to hide it within. It's kind of some of the most interesting stuff in the season, because all the other stuff is just like setting up these intellectual arguments, which I get that Westworld wants to focus on, like talking about these high concepts and like how they clash together. But the problem is that there's no nuance. The whole way through of the season, it's like controlling people is bad. Serac is bad. It doesn't actually ask any interesting questions at all about free will, because the whole way through, it's like, isn't it fucked up that they did this with this big brain, right? And they're just keeping everyone down. And then the more the season goes on, you find out more fucked up things they did. And it's like, yeah, it was bad all along. Cool. So there was never this moment where you're like, Serac, like they should have gone way more into the whole nuclear explosion in Paris and all of that, maybe, to make us understand why this is also important. They just sort of mention it as a thing and as a motivation, but then Serac has to be a mustache twirling villain, which, why the fuck is he that? If Serac is being told by the computer brain what to do at all times, does he tell him to act super evil so no one will trust him? Like,
to enjoy it, to have like a nice grin. And then, but also like, for someone who we've seen a few times this season enjoy like getting his own hands dirty, but then like when they have Caleb, he's like, all right, guards, take this man out, but it's like almost like they've built up this moment where it should be Caleb that's like, haha, nice, and he gets to just shoot. I'm sorry, Serac is like, aha, nice, and gets to just shoot Caleb in the head because he's done it a bunch of times and he loves doing it. But now he's like, I'm going to go stand 10 feet over here while you go handle that. as all the drama unfolds, all this drama. But I mean, before that, we have Solomon, the crazy AI. That's fun, I guess.
Yeah, it's like parallel with him and his brother. Like, there's a lot of stuff in this that's like they have all the stuff that you add into a story at the end to make it like super good. Like, they have a lot of the details that I think are like parallels and things visually and story wise that are really cool to sprinkle on top of a story once you have it figured out. But they don't have the good base story underneath is the problem. So like a few of them are like, yeah, there's a crazy robot AI that they shut down. That makes sense to me as a parallel to like the two brothers, and one of them went crazy, and there's something interesting to be explored there about his brother going crazy. But it's just we don't get the meat and heart of the story. We just get those parallels in the same way as I mentioned, like, we have all these humans, these outliers that for most of them, the therapy doesn't work. So we just froze them. And like, that doesn't really matter to the story, but it does work as a parallel to all the malfunctioning hosts that they would keep in cold storage. There's these visual type correlations and cues that are like, wow, humans are just like robots in a way. But then the story just outright says to you as well, like, you're just like robots, and it doesn't actually have any nuance. So that's a real shame.
Yeah. But even like, I don't know, why would they keep the Solomon around? Wouldn't they just be like, all right, this is bad, we got a working one?
I guess he was he used for like the retraining of the outlier, maybe?
I think so. Crazy. Maybe they shouldn't use the crazy one.
Maybe. Well, maybe it was kept on ice just like he kept his brother on ice. I don't know. I assumed he was used for the reprogramming of the mad people. But then why would you let a crazy AI reprogram crazy people to make them not crazy? I don't even know. But yeah,
shout outs to Keith Mars popping up in Westworld. Best character of the whole season. Enrico Colantoni? I don't know how to say it. He's Keith Mars on Veronica Mars. He was the guy that kid and Caleb kidnapped. Guy's just got charisma. Guy can just nail a part, whether it's a sleaze bag. If he's only in there for a few minutes, you buy it. He comes in, you buy that that he'd be able to like sway someone maybe, or at least make them second guess what's going on. Love that dude. He's one. Yeah. In my opinion, for TV dads. Put him on the Mount Rushmore TV dads. Get Bill Cosby out of here.
Well, yes. Yeah, I mean, speaking of that scene, that's in, Caleb's backstory. And like, you can't stack this many reveals. It just, you stop caring as a viewer, because I swear there were like 8 reveals, one per episode, about Caleb's backstory not being what he thought it was. And I think that contributed to him walking around going, what? What's Dolores doing? Like, having no personality, etc. Because every time there's something new. Like, you can't just leave it at one step where, they have the extra bit of backstory in one episode. No, it's like more and more. And then he trained at the park, and he met Dolores at the park as well. Jeez. And this guy that he caught it wasn't actually in the war. It was when he was back. That part kind of made sense. And then like just stacking more and more shit on top of it. Like, actually, Russian insurgents, they were hunting us as well, but they're using the robots. They're using the fucking missiles from outer space, which is the US system. So clearly the system is the one killing you off, but you're fine with that because you're reprogrammed, and none of this actually happened because you were reprogrammed anyways.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just ranting here, but like, there were just too much. Like, none of those reveals were satisfying, because it's just. We know by the time we get like a third reveal in Westworld, we're like, well, this clearly isn't the real reveal or like the final word on this. We gotta have more bullshit with this. And even with all of this happening, you still have an episode where Aaron Paul runs around and is high and doesn't realize something about his past. I'm not saying they need to have it. Maybe it would indicate drugs are good, and maybe that would be a bad thing. But like, he is high for a whole episode, Jim, and he doesn't remember anything about his past in that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you'd think it would maybe break through a little bit. He'd see flashes. No. Actually, he does see flashes, because that's the one at the
end of the episode, right?
Yeah, at the end when he's, I guess, maybe is he high, or is that the last scene? Remember that they hinted at?
I remember.
But I mean, the whole thing about him being at the park and like saving the robots from being raped, it's like, oh my god, dude. Like, because there's still part of me that's like, yeah, they're just robots. Who gives a fuck? But I guess that's like missing the point of Westworld. But there's also this idea of like, if they do this training exercise and they just killed a bunch of robots, why are they hanging out with, like, wouldn't they just hit a button and shut those robots down too? No, everyone's like, all right, we got base camp in the morning. Everyone hit the sack. Like, you're not going to turn on. I don't know. These are nitpicks. It's like, who cares? But then like it was so clear that Dolores was going to be there when they're talking about how, they're at the park. I guess it's not completely subtle, but then it is felt like a reveal later when they show her, and it's like, that's why I picked you. You're like me. You were reprogrammed and abused, and I was reprogrammed and abused. Plus, I have this poetic sensibility built into my programming. That's why I want to have a person take down people.
Yeah, but so like you said, that was the reveal for like, why did Dolores pick him? And I don't have a problem with him like doing military training in the park or whatever. But like that was never a question that we asked, that we fervently needed a poetic answer to why Dolores picked him. More like, what the fuck is going on? But they talk about that as well at length.
But they also kind of already answered it, because not only did it have to come down to that she saw him, be a good guy once. She also saw William be a good guy once. But not only did she see him be a good guy once, but before that, they already explained that he was like one of the only people, or like the first people to be pre-programmed or whatever. So like he is Dolores of people. So that should have been enough. Like, she did the research and was like, oh, that's me of people. Let's go. But then it was like, oh my God, the me of people is actually that guy I met that time. Holy shit. You can't make this stuff up.
Another huge coincidence. Weird. So they go get the plan for Revolution, and I guess the plan is go to where the big robot brain is and plug Dolores in there. I thought it was going to be something more complicated than that. But no, they need to go there to get a plan for them to get inside there. And in the last episode, Dolores says like the system's going to fight harder the closer we get. And then some other people are coming up to them, and she's like, "Don't worry, they're with us." And like, that's the only part where we see the system, as it were, fighting back, which is what like you said, we would have expected to see that all season instead of seeing just Serac, who is a bumblefuck, by the way. Does Serac do anything successfully against Dolores this whole season? I guess he kills her once, but because Maeve kills her, but then she's just left there, and they put the brain in a new thing anyway. So they very, very much fail at making him a competent villain. Like, I guess he kills some people here and there, and he does threaten Maeve, but like, what does he actually even do? And what does the system do to make it a real threat to our main characters?
She only gets captured when it's part of the plan that she gets captured. Like, she wants to get captured because she needs to be hooked to the computer in such a convoluted thing of like deleting her last memory, uploads the kill switch, or whoever the fuck knows. I saw flashing lights and she yelled. And then Serac is just kind of like, ha ha ha, this is what happens. Nothing out of the ordinary here. But even in my mind, someone who hasn't worked with Rehoboam, I was like, uh-oh, that can't be good for Rehoboam, whatever just happened. And apparently, Rehoboam is like just like I was going to say like a dog, but not even like a dog. It takes more to like have a dog, lighten up to a new owner and a new master. It's literally just like, no, this is the guy. And then it's like, all right, well, I guess I am a computer, even though I was a supercomputer not too long ago, artificial intelligence that, can basically control fate, but they didn't build in any type of backdoor of like stopping someone else from being able to take control. Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're saying that the scene where is basically we have Dolores at one end of the table and Serac at the other, and they're both like, "Here, boy, here, Rehoboam, come here." and it goes to Dolores, and it's underwhelming. Yeah, no, I get you. I do wonder, like, so there's another reveal, one of many, as we've said, at the end there, where Aaron Paul is fighting really hard for this thing to happen that he, cares about now, apparently. And then it's revealed to him, like, oh, show the prediction for what will happen when you do this. And the prediction's like, oh, mass extinction event, or so many people will die, or whatever. But that's treated as a reveal. But I feel like from his point of view, they sent out this information to everyone, and it's already caused a lot of chaos, right? And Aaron Paul is like shocked, like, oh my God, she didn't tell me that this would cause chaos. Isn't that the whole thing that you've known all along and talked about the whole season, about how the bringing down the control and stuff? The reason for it is for there to be not chaos. And then he acts at the end like, oh my God, this prediction shows that bad things will happen if I do this. And then he's like, oh, and he totally doubts her and is like giving up hope. And then at the end, he's like, God, delete it anyway. But like, isn't his perspective should surely be that, like, I've been controlled and I know that I'm being kept down by this thing, right? I know I could reach higher if I wasn't being kept down. So I have to trust that this prediction is also incorrect, because it's predicting this end of the world scenario. Instead, he looks at that and is just flabbergasted and he seems totally apathetic after that, even though he really cared about it beforehand. And again, his motivation is just very weak. And they even mention how it's like, oh, it's just because it's a pretty face telling you what to do. And I almost feel like the show confirms it. It's like, yeah, he was just following along and didn't really care all along.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, dude, I don't know about this show. I'm not sure about this show, my guy. Oh, the maze was popping up. That was fun, right? I was reading. You didn't see like the spray painted maze like on the wall?
No.
Yeah, like during the riots, like the maze was being like, it was like on protest signs and shit. And then I was reading like interviews with Nolan and Joy. And they were like, yeah, those were our hints. I guess you could see the maze in other scenes like earlier. It's like that was kind of hinting that Dolores is pulling strings behind the scenes. It's like, yeah, but Dolores, she's not even behind the scenes. We've known that she's like controlling things, and like they have that massive fortune, and she's like hiring guns and whatever. And going back to the other thing of like the system's going to fight back, and the system fights back, but then she's like paying 3 times whatever they're paying them. But then couldn't the system also be like, well, no, I have everything. I have the system. I'm the system. I can pay 8 times more than what I'm paying him right now. But
no, they just have those virtual assistants to just work it out. So,
So, that's the other thing. So, yeah, like you were saying, like Dolores, like if the show had balls, that should be like Dolores as a character will exist, but Evan Rachel Wood that was her swan song, which maybe it was. Mm-hmm. But the quotes I was reading is that they were saying stuff like, the Dolores we knew, like that she's now gone. But that doesn't quite confirm, like, if they were saying this is, Evan Rachel's Wood goodbye, that would feel like a more of a moment. But I don't trust that she's not going to be back. But I mean, yeah, she's not going to be the Dolores we know. Oh no, but she's going to be Dolores. But if they do just say like, no, we just have Hail Dolores or whatever, then it kind of would feel like a real moment. Like, because even if the character in name is around, the actress is gone. But I can't trust them that's going to happen. So I don't feel anything. Maybe retroactively when season 4 is previews and they're like, nope, Evan Rachel Wood's gone, it's all gonna hit me at once, like, oh my god, the moment when she's in the field, that was great. And the other thing is, Hail Dolores, why can she now haunt Dolores and have all this power? Where did that come from?
I forget. So what is this? What does Hail Dolores do to haunt her? Like, talks in her brain?
Like, yeah, she just shows up in the street and starts talking shit. And then Caleb's like, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? What's going on? But then
I don't know about that, Jim, but I did want to touch on what you said there, that like maybe it's the end of Evan Rachel Wood being in this. they may say that, but much like you, I won't believe it, because maybe she won't be main star, but you gotta know there's gonna be flashbacks. You gotta know we see Hey Loris in a simulation, and now she looks like Dolores again. You gotta know she's, because it's like, because there's not enough of a base, I'm sorry to say, for a solid base for the show to stand on, that they live on those moments where, like, in episode 4 of the next season, it's going to end with like a shot of Dolores, and everyone's like, holy shit, Dolores is back, and Reddit goes crazy.
Right.
Like, there's no way she's never on the show again, though. I would be okay with that, even if they just went and said like, nah, she's not going to be part of the main cast anymore. Like, say it at least, even if it's not true. We're going to forget it by the time the next season's out in 3 years.
Well, because I mean that's very similar to William, and
don't get me started on William.
What a shit journey that William had, and completely understand Ed Harris's frustration with being on this show, because he has. Well, I mean, I really like the moment when he's in. I think it's when you like the part you mentioned when he's got his like $20,000 whiskey or whatever, and then the guy's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm gonna fucking save the world." I love that, and I would more prefer if he was this fucking variable out there running amok, doing whatever the fuck, thinking he's saving the world, but he's actually ruining things. But no, like, and even his post-credit scene is hilarious too, because he's walking up to the building and he's going, "You know what the fuck they're doing in there?" Like, he's a ranting lunatic. He's yelling at just random like interns that are outside the Delos building, and he's like, "You know what they do in this place? They do fucked up shit." And he walks in, and he's like
shoots the guy.
He's yelling at the secretary, shoots that guy, the security guy or whatever, heads down, and then he just gets killed.
Yeah. So, like, imagine season 1, right? Season 1 is all about Dolores and the Man in Black. I mean, yeah, no, Arnold, there's a lot going on in season 1 if we're comparing. But like, imagine season 1, and then you go like, yeah, this guy William, who was in this whole season, he's gonna die in a post-credit scene in season 3, because the whole season it's gonna be like, ooh, is he a robot? Is he being controlled? Is he going insane? And then like, nah, he's going to be dead now. He's going to get motivation towards the end of the season, because throughout the season, he's not going to have a clear motivation. And then he's going to go, fuck this. I'm going to fuck everything up. And then he's going to immediately be killed and be replaced by a robot. And we're going to get to see a view of millions of hosts being created. And I assume that they're all going to be Williams running around, so we can once and for all have an answer to the question whether William is a robot. He is now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, now, like they confirmed that he wasn't a robot by having a robot version of himself cut his throat. Unless they pick up next season and it's like he wakes up and he's like, wait, I've been a robot and I was killed by another robot version of myself. Yeah, like bizarre. And then I guess we see Bernard covered in dust to show that we're probably in for a time jump, eh?
Yeah, but I mean, that's like a motel or whatever he's in. So I suppose it could have been at any time. Like, it gets dusty quick in those old homes. But yeah, time jump would be good, I suppose.
That's quite a bit that's quite a bit of dust.
Do you think it's going to be like Terminator future next season?
Might as well be. We already had Terminator Dolores. I don't even want to get into like that a maid never opened that door or like looked in like, who's this guy? It's a guy passed out in here.
It's a dead guy in the bathtub. He did bleed out.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. I was waiting for the camera to pan, and Stubbs is still like giving the finger to Bernard, covered in dust.
Yeah. So I guess this just leaves us with one last question, Jim, which is this the last episode of Westworld Theories? Are we just not going to do the next one? Because I don't know if anyone enjoys hearing us rant about this. I mean, it's cathartic, but, you know.
We can't be jerks like this and do more episodes. I'll probably, in my personal life, I'll watch it. Maybe if I'm like, hey, this is great, maybe I'll do something on it. But I mean, I'm sure people that like the show don't want to hear this, and like we can't just come in every week and be like, "Do you know what else sucks?" Like, I mean, not a service. We're not providing a service to anyone. The only service we're providing are to other people. If you are like as frustrated as us, it's like sometimes I'll listen to a discussion like this and I'll be like, yeah, exactly. That sucked. Hell yeah. These guys are right.
Well, yeah, I think maybe a lot of people got that cathartic thing from, say, our Game of Thrones discussions at the end of Game of Thrones, where we were like, well, this was fucked up, and so was this. And as did a million other podcasts. But like that I get, but I can't imagine people feeling the same way we're feeling right now, being really excited for the next season of Westworld when it comes out, because I feel like there's already been a significant drop in interest in Westworld, and then at the start of this season it was like, oh, now they're going to do a new thing, and I mean, just listen to the first episode when I'm talking about it, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm in, like, give it to me, let's do it, future world. And then like slowly getting bogged down and like, I guess they just on their back on their bullshit again.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine a lot of people are like, fuck yeah, when the next season starts. But if you're like that and you think the next season's great, let us know. Maybe we'll cover it. But like I say the same, that like at this point, I don't think those people who are like, yeah, it sucked, you tell them, James and Jacob, I don't think they're gonna watch the next season or want to hear a podcast on it. So let us know if I'm wrong. You can let us know by leaving a review of Westworld Theories on your podcatcher of choice. Just search for Westworld Theories. Or send us your thoughts on Westworld to showswhatyouknow@gmail.com. You can, of course, also go to showswhatyouKnow.com. As I mentioned earlier, we do discuss a lot of shows that we actually enjoy that you'll find there. Among them would be our Cobra Kai podcast. We actually really like Cobra Kai, and we're talking about every episode on there. On No Mercy, a Cobra Kai kickback. There's also Gilead Gazette discussing The Handmaid's Tale. Of course, Blank Meets Blank, where we make up our own television shows. Cut to Black, where we discuss every single episode of The Sopranos, a great show that makes you think everything else is bullshit. So I recommend not watching it, or you'll have a hard time getting back into regular TV. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. A lot of great stuff. Please check it out. Even if you liked Westworld and kind of hate us now because we're, nitpicking and being assholes, check out our other shows. I promise you. But I think there's just one more thing left to say, Jacob.
Oh, what's that?
Fuck you, Bernard.